Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the True Potential Do More With Your Money podcast. We're on episode 61, over a year worth of podcasts, which is in line with the lockdowns pretty much. So I'm joined by a star panel today. We've got Mr. Jeff Casson, Steve Hutton, and we're joined by Stephanie Windsor today, one of our True Potential Wealth Management partners. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Jamie.
Hey.
I think we mentioned this just a couple of minutes ago, but I think everyone knows Jeff and Steve. But Steph, if you could maybe just give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself and our viewers.
Of course, yes. So my name is Stephanie Windsor. I'm a chartered financial planner, and I have been providing wealth management and advice to clients for over 30 years now, which is quite scary. I joined True Potential last June, and really enjoying working with the company, really enjoying having the technology to back up, everyday advice. So yeah, all good.
Fantastic. And we didn't pay Stephanie to say anything like that. So them good words did come directly from her, which is always good news. No, so good morning, everyone. I think, Jeff, if we could just get started with your interesting week in the markets, please, and give us a little update just in standard style.
Yeah, no worries, Jamie. In terms of the market this week, it's been quite nice. It's been less volatile than it's been over the recent weeks, particularly if we think about what's been happening in the bond market itself. So a bit more stability there, which has been really good to see. And certainly we've seen sovereign bond yields move in quite a bit. So we look at UK gilts, we've seen the UK 10-year come into 73 basis points from 88 last week. So that certainly has helped give a bit of stability into the bond market, but also into the equity market as well. So a much less sort of volatile journey in the equity markets this week. And we've seen that come through with the VIX, which everybody's probably heard me talk about as the fear index. That's come back down to sort of a 20 level, which is the lowest level we've actually seen in the past 12 months. So we've seen that move through into equity markets. Equity markets kind of just moved sideways over the course of the week. No big change. The rotation that we've been talking about and have seen really since the 9th of November with that value and growth dynamic, that's continued to be there. Maybe not as evident at times this week, but certainly if we look at it year to date, value has certainly been a much stronger performing style than growth, and that has continued to hold. A bit of challenge in that this week around just the financials and also sort of the energy side of the market coming under a little bit more weakness, as we saw the oil price drop 11% at the beginning of the week. And then as bond yields have come in, it's slightly less supportive for financials, but still remains very, very positive for them. I think the other thing to sort of been reflecting on this week, it's really a year of lockdown. So a year since equity markets bottomed out on the 23rd of March last year. And that has, if you think about it, returns have been exceptionally strong from equity markets over that period. So global equities up some sort of 50% over that period, which is a strong return by anybody's sort of thought process. But really taking a step back from that, thinking about it, what have we seen over that 12 months? We've seen a lot of central bank support. We've touched on that many times on these podcasts and within morning markets. We've seen real fiscal impetus coming through from governments, both and contrasting styles as well. The US has certainly put much more fiscal support into their economy than we've seen from the likes of Europe. And that's one of the trends that's becoming more evident in asset markets as well over recent weeks, in that we've got this dichotomy between US growth likely to be 6.5% this year, European growth likely to be 3%. So we're seeing US growth revised up, but we're seeing European growth revised down. And that's creating some quite interesting tailwinds or headwinds for sectors and economies, depending how one thinks about it. I think the other thing I just wanted to sort of reflect on is just the speed of innovation that we've seen over that 12-month period. We think about the innovation that we as a business have brought through in terms of digital DMO, the complete movement away from paper within that. That's the innovation at the heart of our business. But if we think about vaccinations and the speed of which vaccinations have been developed over that period, it just really speaks to technological innovation, change working its way through, and consumption patterns have really changed. And it was brought home to me this morning just looking at UK retail sales for February, and yes, we've seen a bit of a pickup in retail sales, about 2% month on month. But digging into the data, the really interesting thing is just the amount of sales that are online. So we've got 36% of sales online for the month of February. Looking at the data, if we go back to February last year, it was only 20%. So there is a step change really, and well, we've been forced to do it. We're all sitting in this strange, well, maybe less strange environment given it's the 60-odd episode, but we're all sitting doing it in this format. Maybe not surprising that a large swathe of sales have transitioned online, but does that go back to normal? And that'll present an interesting challenge for us all to think about going forward as economies do reopen. I think just on the vaccine side, one other thing that's just interesting overnight in the US. If you remember back when Biden came in, he talked about 100 million vaccination doses in 100 days. They've actually achieved that ahead of time, and he's now upped that to 200 million doses in 100 days, which again contrast that with Europe. Quite a significant difference there. But just those are some of the things that we've been chatting about as a team this week, also bringing to life, I think, in the morning markets videos as well.
Thanks, Jeff. And actually, it was interesting. When you see you get your memories on your Facebook and your Instagram, you look at a year ago the different position that we were in, and I think Stephanie, you'll probably remember this a little bit, but last year I spent a lot of time talking to clients on the phone. Steve, you probably did, which was really just stay in your seats. You know, we've seen these sorts of things happen before. Markets do come back. And it's interesting, just looking a year from today, if you look at the Dow Jones as an example, it's up 50% from a year. And it just shows you all these messages that we were saying in the discussions you have with clients about this is a long-term game, this is a long-term investment, actually was such an important message at the time to clients. And Steve, I don't know, you spent a lot of time on webinars with advisors and explaining about this, but I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, but I just found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, hasn't it? I mean, like Stephanie, I've been around a long time. No disrespect, Stephen. Obviously, you can tell from me I've been around a lot longer. You're wording a lot better than I am. But
I'll see.
Yeah, it's been a year like I've never known before. And the thing I think to think about markets is don't be seduced by the huge gains when we're talking about 50%. Equally, don't be frightened by the sometimes steep corrections. I think it all ties into making sure that you've got your risk attitude and your risk appetite sort of outlined and correctly functioning, and talk to your advisor, because we're looking at returns for people who are looking for income, and since 2008 this has been a really difficult quest for a lot of people, and I think when you default to cash, if you're frightened of the markets, it can be really damaging to your sort of long-term financial health. But it does feel like a safety blanket, and we've all said it before. Cash isn't a safety blanket. Certainly, if you've got your goals planned and you've got your attitude to risk sort of understood and established, then it probably includes a little bit of cash, but not a lot. So if you've got a portfolio or some cash holdings that are heavily weighted that way, you should be talking to your advisor about how you can put this money to better use. And I know we're going to talk about allowances, etc. And it's sort of been my bugbear through the whole of the year that we need to make sure people are aware of the attractive tax allowances, because they're not here forever. And as Jeff has outlined, the support that the markets and economies have had from governments has to be paid back, or has to be attempted to be paid back. It'll probably never get paid back, but there has to be some kind of semblance of we're showing willing to pay back this national debt, and it will come in part from the tax allowances of people who, that well-worn phrase by politicians, have the broadest shoulders. So you might not think you've got broad shoulders, but they probably think you have. So use your tax allowances while they're available, because they won't be here forever.
I think what you're saying about last year being, such an unusual year is so very true. And, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But what we had, I think, this time last year, we had this terrifying fall. But the year has really shown how resilient the markets are. We had a situation that we didn't know whether it was following the same kind of normal kind of V-shaped correction. Because we had governments, shutting down economies to save people's lives. So this has shown, after even such drama, the markets have come back and are much more resilient than we could, be initially led to believe. So so I think it's really good.
From your point of view, Stephanie, as well, for you as an advisor, that's probably had to adapt significantly with the way you work and speak to your clients. I presume a lot of your appointments were face to face, and have now went to this sort of environment where we're using Teams and Zoom, etc. How has that affected you in terms of sort of changing the way you work with your business?
Well, I think that was one of the main drivers for myself and my business partner to join True Potential, simply because we needed better technology. We needed better service from the providers we were using, to support our clients with platforms, etc. The service just wasn't there. And we have this amazing, technology solution where we can, share a screen. We can look at, how a portfolio has performed, since inception in the last period, and really help our clients plan for the future.
Excellent. Yeah, it's been I think it's, as David uses the word anti-fragile, David Harrison, which it is. It's how you react to the changes, and I think we've reacted really well as a business. Okay, let's switch to the today's podcast topic, which is tax year end. I thought, how do we describe tax year end to viewers for us as a business? And it's kind of like, I don't know, working for John Lewis during Christmas time, in terms of how busy it gets for us, in terms of clients. And what you find is you've got this full year to utilise allowances, but there tends to be that sort of 6 weeks of, I wouldn't say panic's the right word, but that's 6 weeks of making sure everyone's utilised this before we go to the next tax year. So it's always a really, really busy period for us, but quite a nice and exciting time. Steve, we'll start with you if we may, please. I think last chance of really just telling our viewers and listeners how important it is, if you do have cash sitting in there, of utilising your allowances, and what them allowances are.
Yeah, you're right, Jimmy. It probably is the last week that we bang the drum so sort of feverishly about allowances. However, I think after this week, it sort of goes into talking about making sure your longer term planning with your goals but there is a certain element of immediacy to the tax allowances. Some of them you can use, if you don't use them, you lose them. Some of them you can utilise, carrying back previous year's reliefs and bringing it forward. And it's people like Stephanie that you need to talk to utilise that, because you could be missing some previous year's tax allowances, particularly around pensions that you haven't used. But, the key sort of message is it's twofold. There are some, and even if they stay the same, you lose them if you don't use them this year. But generally, I think the pension tax allowances, there's been a lot of news this week about going to a flat rate pension allowance. Now, obviously, if you're a higher rate taxpayer or an additional rate taxpayer, if someone, and I've said this before, if someone was to say to you, if you make an investment, you will get a 45% boost in the first year, you'd bite their hand off. Well, that is what's available. So, consult your advisor, or go online and look at your portfolio and make the investment, because that won't be around forever. And if they go to a flat rate, they're thinking around about 30% as a flat rate. It hasn't happened yet, and the budget statement, the sort of post statement this week didn't mention it. It doesn't mean to say that it's off the table. Unfortunately, this government have a habit of sort of saying one thing and then just in the wires letting out what they really want to do. So it's the thought of this flat rate has not gone away. So certainly if you're an additional or higher rate taxpayer, you absolutely should be looking at this allowance and looking at allowance parts of it you haven't used in previous year. There's £40,000 a year, but you can bring some back from previous years. So you look at that. You've got your ISA allowance of 20,000 as an individual, so you should be looking at that. You should also look at some of your more important allowances as well, such as capital gains tax. That's a very popular tax for governments to have a go at, because it's seen as the tax of the rich, and it's not anymore, everybody. So please, with equity price increases and property price increases, you could have a significant capital gains tax liability when you wouldn't even presume you're in that sort of sphere of wealth, if you like. So please look at your allowances, talk to your advisor, and get to use them, because post April the 5th, we can talk about making sure your goals are aligned and you're building for the future. But like I said, there is this immediacy, and it would be so, you would kick yourself if you've missed the chance to use your allowances. But if you don't understand them, and I know if you go on the Gov site, it is quite confusing. I was trolling through it this morning, and I've been in financial services for 35 years. It can be quite confusing finding your way through them and thinking, how do I fit into there, and dividend income, and properties, and you go and consult a professional. You've still got time before the 5th of April, by the way. And with the medium of technology, they can make appointments and they can talk to you pretty quickly. So please, don't sit on your hands. And if you've got money sitting in cash, I keep saying, what a great time to get a boost from the government and get some tax relief added to it by making an investment.
I think it's worth just plugging at this point sort of areas and sort of easy ways of, if you want to put money in your ISA or your pension. We do have the Impulse functionality via the website. Give your advisor a call or the team a call, but that's the nice and easiest way to sort of add them last minute sort of pennies to your allowances, because if you're never going to get it back when it comes to ISAs. So it's important that you do utilize them if you plan on doing so. And I think, Stephanie, just coming across to you, so we speak a lot about ISAs versus pensions and what the benefits are and why I would use them. And me as an advisor, I would always think there's advantages to both products, and depend on the client how you would utilize them. How do you sort of discuss with your clients when you're talking about what's the best product to place your funds in?
So I think you should absolutely always use your pension allowance first, as much of that allowance as you can use, because this is free money from the government, and we don't know how long that tax relief, at the rates that it is currently, is going to last. If you're saving for retirement, a pension is still the most tax efficient way to do that. So definitely use that pension allowance. The other thing as well, if you are a high earner, so if you have a salary of over 125,000, you're going to lose your personal allowance, that £12,570 in this year that we get to be able to earn, not pay tax on our earnings for that amount. Sorry. If you don't want to lose your personal allowance, you can make an additional pension contribution to bring your salary down, and you get tax relief on that additional contribution as well. So definitely something to think about. If you are a couple and together you earn more than 50,000, it may be that your child benefit allowance is going to be reclaimed. Again, an additional pension allowance, you're going to gain from the tax relief, but it might just bring you down to a position where you will keep your child benefit. So there's lots of ways to use that pension allowance that you have every year to help provide you with even greater tax savings. The other thing as well is think about your children, perhaps. So if you have some money sitting around and it's in cash, interest rates are terrible. So the return that you're going to get from a bank account has never been lower. So if you have some money and you're thinking about children's future income, a children's pension is a great thing to perhaps look at. You can make a contribution of £2,880 for every child, and the government will top that up by £720. So it's an often overlooked way to help your children save for the future. Children's ISAs as well. Again, if the money's sitting around in a savings account, it could be working much harder and maybe help support your children's future. Yeah,
I think actually, so what's really interesting there, Stephanie, is that there is lots of good ways of planning, and just that sort of initial conversation with your advisor, whether it's an ongoing basis or just looking at these abilities. And I think this is not just about this tax year, but maybe it's going into next tax year, starting a bit earlier. you can see, you know, just some examples that you've said there that can really help and significantly help clients when it comes to investing money. I think just switching it. Sorry, Jeff.
Jamie, I just wanted to tie it back to something we touched on there right at the start about why have sovereign bond yields been sort of backing up a little bit. Well, twofold. One, it's about views on an improvement in economic growth, but it's also concerns about inflation. And if we think about the inflation backdrop that we may or may not be moving into, but what do we know? We know that sitting in cash with inflation even at 2% or 2.5%, 3%, that's a very big headwind for cash. So whilst cash is, as we've discussed, may feel a comfortable thing to have, in real terms, if we've got inflation of anything above zero, you're actually seeing your cash being eroded. So it's, I think, to think about it from that perspective as well is really important. And just to sort of back up what Steve and Stephanie have been saying there, it is about, you know, keeping a view on, yeah, it feels comfortable, but actually with any form of inflation, you're getting your cash eroded. So really think about that.
It does feel as if inflation is waiting in the wings. I mean, it has done for a while. I take that on board, but it does feel, and now the first signs I think are there, Jeff, as you said, that inflation is starting to tick up a little bit. You think of all this stimulus to the economies, and it just feels that there's got to be inflation rig. And casting my mind back, it feels that it won't just creep up. I feel that if it does start to move, it could actually incrementally move quite quickly. So you've always got to be mindful that inflation is the biggest toxin, if you like, on your savings, and it could catch you unawares, as it were, I think.
And I suppose we've had, you know, post 80s, we've had, you know, 30 years of falling inflation rates, and a lot of people don't really appreciate that inflation can turn the other way and be quite detrimental, even if it doesn't have to move back up to the inflation rates that we saw in the 70s and 80s. It only has to move up to somewhere that's double where it is today, and it's quite a big headwind for people to think about, and it's a very different environment, but it's worth keeping in mind.
We've got a generation of people who have never seen
inflation.
And I think you're having a go there, Jeff, weren't you? That suggesting that some of us might know and remember the inflationary times in the 70s and 80s.
Not at all. Not at all.
I think as well, everybody is concerned about, you know, money they have in the bank at the moment, because, you know, those interest rates are so low, and there's so many people with cash ISAs, and that money's just not working very hard for them. As an advisor, when people come to retirement, reach that retirement age, or just before retirement, actually, so before that kind of traditional age of 60 or 65, you might want to ease into your kind of retirement much more slowly. And one way to do that is to use all of your savings accounts together to provide you with the most tax efficient income. So when you come to your, you know, that age where you're starting to look at accessing funds, you know, maybe going down from a 5-day week to a 3-day week, then what we start to do is look at how can we increase the income for you? How can we bridge that gap? So we look at your ISA, maybe, you know, we'll take an income-free, a tax-free withdrawal from your ISA. Maybe we will take some money from your pension up to your personal allowance. Maybe if you have a general investment account, just, another type of investment. But when you withdraw that, it's a capital gains payment. All of this, we pull together to provide you with the most tax efficient income when you come to retirement. So it's desperately important to use that ISA allowance every single year, because if we don't use it, we lose it.
Yeah, I think that's a regular saying that we've definitely said a few times on this is use it or lose it. And I think one thing I would say from this is, when you're thinking about next year, so when I say next year, next as in a couple of weeks away, the next tax year, is actually what is the best way of saving at that ISA. So I always recommend clients to do on a regular basis. So looking at that regular savings, that regular contribution to your pension, because yes, it's a little bit easier when, you know, you just see it as another direct debit that's coming out of your bank on a regular basis. But you're benefiting on things such as pound cost averaging, which is a really helpful area. But it's a lot easier to put a sort of little bit amount than putting 10,000-15,000 pounds in your ISA at the end of that period. And I would always recommend looking at that regular saving methods. Steph, just keeping to yourself. We are a huge advocate of goals, and I am when I advise clients. It's always the thing that it's sometimes you have clients come towards you and I want to transfer my pension, or I want to invest some money, and I can take a step back and say, well, actually, what do you want to do this for? What's your objective? You know, when do you want to retire? How much do you need? And I think these are really important areas. How do you work with clients from a goal setting perspective, especially with using allowances?
Yeah, well, actually, this is the most exciting part. So we often have people come to us and say, oh, I'm never going to be able to retire. I'm not going to be able to retire until I'm 65. And then you start to look at, you know, maybe a range of smaller pensions that people have built up over their working lifetime. And I think there was a survey that said that most employees in the UK now, because of workplace pensions, will have 4 or 5 different pots of money, you know, that they don't know what to do with. Do they bring them together? Do they keep them separately? So what we can do is look at those and see if it's prudent, it's the right thing for that individual to bring those together. And then what we do is we look at how much is affordable for that person to pay into that investment, that pension each month, each year. And we look at when they're going to retire, how much they will need, you know, what their state pension will look like. You know, have they always worked in the UK? Will they get a full state pension as well? And really, we can show, given some kind of projections on returns to the fund, actually what that pot of money is going to provide. And that's the exciting bit, because all of a sudden everything slots into place, and you can see that actually there is an income that can be provided and what that pension pot means. The True Potential site has fantastic goal setting tools on it, so it's very easy to work with a client to see, so when do you want to retire, or when do you want to start accessing your investments for the first time, and how do we do that in the most tax efficient way, and how do we make the most of your allowances along the way?
Yeah, no, it is, and I think if you haven't got a goal set on your website, it's worth actually looking at that. Jeff, you had something to say there, I think.
No, I was just thinking that exactly as Stephanie was saying, it's really important for everybody to think about all of those avenues of opportunity that there are there, and to really, as we've been discussing, really the importance of getting advice for anybody that wants it, and to make sure that they go and get it, because it's difficult to navigate your way around. I was just, what Stephanie was saying around the children's pension dynamic there, I was thinking to myself, that's maybe something that I should be looking at and thinking about. And there we go, you can pick up, you know, just the tips like that from doing the podcast like this. But for everybody, it's really worthwhile to go and get that advice and information that's really needed to make those informed decisions.
I think, Jeff, it's worth saying, and this is why we always have, someone from maybe potentially True Potential Wealth Management, which is the advisor arm, and then True Potential Investments, is the difference of what the experts can do for you. So when you look at your financial advisor side, you've got these sort of this advice in terms of showing people of why you need to save, the importance, the tax advantages, looking at filling your allowances, the best way to draw your money. And that's the real job of a financial advisor. And then on the other side is how your money's working for you, is from the investment management side, which is growing in line with the risk that you discuss for your financial advisor. And that's what we do with True Potential. You have your team and an expert that really is just looking to sort of manage that money to grow in line with the risk category the advisor set. And it just shows you the two different experts of what you've got within your proposition. I don't know, Steve, you've got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the point I'd like to make is everybody has goals. You might not think you've got a goal, but you want to retire at some point. It's almost like expressing that you've got an addiction. The first stage is to articulate what your goal is, and someone can help you bring this out. Sort of, oh yeah, that is a goal. So I do need to have there's a financial point in the future that I need to be aiming towards. It might not be retirement. It is generally with everybody. Let's not kid ourselves. But you might have, I don't know, a daughter's wedding. I didn't have any daughters, so I'm hoping I'll never, as a Yorkshireman, never have to pay for a wedding. But I think they might catch me out on that one. But yeah, you do have a goal, so it's helping that your advisor will help you sort of coax out what your plans are, what you're saving towards, and there's a little bit of adjustments, fine tuning, in the sailing terms again, just altering the sails a little bit will help you get there earlier. Maybe, as Steph was saying, you go into a phase kind of environment where you that would be lovely for some people to sort of say, yeah, I'll phase into retirement over 5 years or whatever. So don't be worried. Talk to a financial advisor. They are skilled in bringing out the sort of ways you should move forward and how you should structure everything towards it. You're right, Jeff. I saw you writing down when Steph was talking about your children's pensions. I probably didn't even know about that, to be honest, because it was, I have no concern. I'm thinking, crikey, I've got friends who've got young children. We should be telling them about it, etc. So, yeah, there's lots going on that you're not, because you might be a butcher or I don't know, whatever. Go and talk to a financial advisor and they'll help you find what allowances and how you should structure your goal planning.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Right, I want a slight change of tact here, because there's some interesting news stories this week, and I just wanted to get Jeff's view on this. So we've got a big boat stuck in a river. I think that's the best way to describe it. And I didn't realise how popular that. I think it's 50 container ships. It goes through that part of the canal every day. So that must be a huge. I don't know how you move something of that size, but that's going to have a huge effect on sort of trade and moving trade. And how does that affect the markets, Jeff?
It ties into a couple of the things we've been touching on here. So you're right, it's a crucial trade route. So if we think about global trade and we think about those big containers that move about, 30% of the world's container volume goes through the Suez Canal. Wow. We think about it from a global trade perspective, 15% of global trade moves through that canal on an annual basis. So it's crucially important to move goods from west to east. And why is it crucially important? Because, well, without it, you have to take the boat down round Africa and back up, which, if you think about just the cost of that, from a chartering of the vessel, also the amount of additional fuel that one needs to do that, goes straight back to what we were talking about. It's inflationary. So how do the shippers recoup that? They put up their rates. How do the people that recoup and use the containers recoup it? They put up their end prices, and it drop into what we end up paying at some point in the future. So it's been quite a week for them to try and figure out how to move I think somebody says it's the length of 3 football pitches. So it's quite amazing how one gets that sort of at that angle in a canal that is perfectly straight. So it might make some interesting videos to see it removed or straightened up again, but it will have an impact on trade the longer it sits there. And so it's as much as it's I think it does have comedy value. The real value of it, or the real implication of it, is that it will impact already stretched supply chains. So if we think about what's happened in the past 12 months, there's been real disruption to supply chains. We've had ships in the wrong place, containers in the wrong place because there hasn't been demand to move them about. And this, on top of that, will just exacerbate that challenge. So one of the things that we can look at on the terminals that we look at is just freight rates and the price for hiring a boat effectively to move cargo around, and that continues to move up. And it ties back to that theme of inflation, but it's also something that's been evident in, you'll have heard us talk on our morning markets about PMIs, purchasing managers indices, that indicate how buyers are thinking about the future. They have been talking about cost pressures over the past 3 to 4 months. And again, something like this just maybe incrementally adds to that. But then again, it might all be a non-event. They might move it over the weekend and we move through and it's only 10 or 12 billion that's stuck there. But it's often things like that sort of blindside us. I don't think anybody would have ever thought a ship will get stuck there and block one of the main trade routes globally.
So, a couple of things are going through my head, which is it'd be interesting to sort of be a fly in the wall next to the captain as he did that. And the second thing is, I think the way to get that out is we should get 50 to 60 Range Rovers, some rope, some toolbars. I'm pretty convinced that'll do the trick.
I'm pretty convinced it won't, Jimmy. The thing is, it's people who do a bit of sailing will realise that how difficult wind can be. I know that sounds all the double entendres there, but it probably only moved it about 45 degrees, but the margin for error. It's just, and getting it off, because it's almost semi-tidal is the Suez Canal. So as the tide comes in, it brings a load of silt with it. So when you've got the bow stuck in the bank, it'll silt up. So they're trying to sort of dredge. They've got some fun and games going on there. I did a bit of sailing, and I do a bit of sailing, and I remember once going into a harbour and we were all, we'd had a few sherbets on the way in, and we'd been drinking gin since lunchtime, thinking a lovely, beautiful Greek sunny day, and the wind kicked up and we ended up going in sideways. And the boat we went across, you wouldn't believe this, but we sort of went across that anchor, and they're obviously anchored in and they're having lunch or sort of afternoon aperitifs and having great fun. And of course, the Goon family come storming in, and go across them. And they walked to the front, and they were from Bradford, where I'm from. Can you believe it? It was a hello. I'm like, oh, I can tell where you're from. And so the language was quite, so we sort of said our pleasantries and left. We didn't even anchor up for the night. We kind of untangled ourselves, pulled their anchor out, so their evening was ruined. They had to go out and come back in again, and off we went. And hopefully, in the shops and lockdown's been great, because there hasn't been the risk of meeting that family in Bradford. Yeah. So a little bit of wind when you're sailing can be very difficult. It's the moral of the story: avoid wind.
In all directions.
I wonder where that was going. I think I extricated myself from that reasonably well, didn't I? So thank you.
We'll try and move on pretty quickly. Okay, we'll just we'll finish off just on the questions. I think we'll start with you, Steve, and then Steph, then Jeff. Just a final plug on the importance of allowances and just completing them. So we'll start with you, Steve.
Yeah. The point is, I think we've banged the drum about the importance of them and using them. But whilst we're still in lockdown, and we are, don't forget, for another month probably at least, we're getting released gradually. You do have a bit of time on your hands. You are sat behind a screen. Utilize it. Use that screen time to get in touch with your advisor, or go online if you think you can do it without an advisor and use your allowances. Use that extra time you've got, because I'm sure once the weather gets slightly better, looking out the window, it's not today, but the weather's going to get better. You're going to be, you're going to have to cure your agoraphobia and go out again. Then before the 5th of April, you're still not free. Utilize that time and take some time just to dedicate it to looking after your financial health and wealth in the future by looking at your tax allowances.
And Stephanie?
Yeah, absolutely. We still have time to use up those allowances. So have a look at if you've used up all of your allowances for this year, and then definitely for pensions, have a look at, if you've used all your potential allowances for the previous year as well. If you are a high earner and you're restricted, sometimes we can use previous allowances there to help your situation as well in this year. So there's lots we can do for this year and looking back. And don't forget the children as well, because they grow so quickly, and there's lots of time usually that we have that we can grow, a very small pot of money quite dramatically. So yeah.
Excellent. Jeff?
Yeah, well, I'm off to investigate the children's side of things, so that's me. But what I would also just say to everybody else is just, it's perfectly highlighted the importance of getting advice, going off and either starting the work yourself or picking up from others what you can do. But the role that the advisors can play in that is crucial. So yeah, if you're not sure, go and get some advice as to what's the best course of action.
Excellent. Yeah, I think some really fantastic comments and points there, and hopefully viewers and listeners can take advantage of that. So, Steve, are you crashing boats this weekend, or what's? You've never told me this story before, so
I've achieved something that I'm quite proud of. Okay, I've gone 2 weeks without making an online purchase from Amazon or anywhere. So I said last night it's 2 weeks. I was reminded it was only Thursday night. So I could recommend everybody for a bit of fun. Do an Amazon audit of what you've bought in lockdown. It'll frighten you. I bought things. I bought solar-powered sprayers that spray. We've got a family of foxes in the garden, and I don't want them trashing it. So I'm humanely trying to scare them off with a water cannon. And I've got an infrared solar-powered water cannon, but I had it on repeat at Amazon, so it was coming every 2 weeks. And I'm like, geez, having to send these. They must think I've got some kind of, army of water-powered cannon going off in the garden. So yeah, I'll be doing an audit of my purchases and making sure I've sent back everything that we don't need.
What about you, Stephanie? You got any plans for the weekend?
Not nearly as exciting as an Amazon audit. I'm planning some gardening and some new flower beds.
Yeah, I've heard it's obviously the best weekend to do gardening. I was watching on the television this morning, and that prompted my wife to say, I think we should do something, which really means I think you should do something. So I think I'll probably be doing the same. Jeff, any plans?
Well, probably similar to Stephanie, might try and do something out in the garden. But hopefully, if the weather stays, get out on the bike as well for a few miles as the weather's starting to get a bit warmer. So it's nicer to be out on the bike again.
Yeah, I think last time we were on the podcast together, Jeff, you were doing miles for a charity, were you?
Yeah.
Did you?
So I did my. Well, I signed up to do 250 miles for the Doddy Weir charity, but I managed to get to 205 by the time of the Calcutta Cup came round. So that was good enough for me. But yeah, it'd be nice to get to the 250, but it was just a step too far in the evenings.
I think Jeff, when we're back in the office and you can do your morning market videos again back in TP head office, you should wear a Doddy Weir suit. I think that would suit you very much. Maybe it's not what it is, because I don't think I think it might be a little bit too big for you.
Maybe a bit on the large side.
But quite an amazing. He trained me when I was younger when playing rugby a couple of times. Quite an amazing guy.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Hopefully that was a useful session. I think I definitely found it useful, and as did Jeff and Steve, learning something new from Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie, for attending today and your sort of valuable advice that you give to ourselves and our viewers. Please subscribe to the podcast. We're here to try and give you sort of help and tips every week, so it's really sort of giving us this sort of feedback is really helpful. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Subscribing to True Potential YouTube channel is quick and easy. Simply go to your YouTube app on your phone, type in True Potential and press the red subscribe option. You'll then be notified as and when new videos are released.